Hello friends, welcome to another interactive session organized by KDPS. Today, I, Chinu, along with Sujitra ma'am, will unfold the story of a young girl named Anne Frank, whose diary writing became a world famous book, The Diary of a Young Girl. But her diary writing was published as a book after she died as a victim of Holocaust, when mass killing of European Jews were done during World War II. Let us together understand the life of Anne Frank through her diary writings. Do you maintain a diary? A diary in which you jot down important experience.
Before we know more about the diary and to whom it belonged, let's take a look at the characters of the story. We have referred to some of these characters in the story. Let's begin the introduction with Anne Frank's family. Anne Frank is the protagonist of the story. We have Margot Frank, Anne Frank's sister, Otto Frank, Anne Frank's father, Edith Frank, Anne Frank's mother. Then let's come to the other residents. Peter Van Daan is the boy who has been many times referred by Anne Frank. Petronilla Van Daan, Peter Van Daan's mother. Herman Van Daan, Peter Van Daan's father. Albert Dussel, the dentist. Joe Clement. Now we begin with the list of helpers. Joe Clement is the first. Victor Kugler, Bep Voskuchel, Miep Gies is Otto Frank's secretary. Jan Gies is Miep's husband, and Johann Voskuchel is Bep's father.
Anne Frank got this diary as a gift on her 13th birthday. Here's how she has described it in her diary. Sunday, June 14th, 1942. I will begin from the moment I got you, the moment I saw you lying on the table among my other birthday presents. I was awoke at 6 o'clock, which isn't surprising since it was my birthday. A little after 7, I went to Daddy and Mama and then to the living room to open my presents, and you were the first thing I saw, maybe one of the nicest presents. Writing a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I have never written anything before, but also it seems to me later or neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musing of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing. I had an even greater need to get all kind of things off my chest. Paper has more patience than people. In the midst of so many people, I feel alone, and this thought that I don't hold deep relations with anyone has stuck into my mind that now it's difficult to confine in you. I am sure when she wrote that no one would be interested in the musing of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. She never thought her book would become one of the most read literary writing in the world, and talks about her family and content fear that her family used to live with. Saturday, June 20th, 1942. My father, the most adorable father I have ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. My sister Margot was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1926. I was born on June 12, 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4 because we were Jewish. My father immigrated to Holland in 1933 when he became the managing director of the Dutch Opactor Company, which manufactured products using in making jam. My mother, Edith Hollanders Frank, went with him to Holland in September while Margot and I were sent to Aachen to stay with our grandmother. Margot went to Holland in December and I followed in February when I was plucked down on the table as a birthday gift for Margot. Our lives were not without anxiety since our relatives in Germany were suffering under Hitler anti-Jew laws. After May 1940, the good times were few and far between. There was the war, then the capitulation, and then the arrival of German, which is when the terrible standard of Jewish. Our freedom was severely restricted as a series of anti-Jewish decrees. Jews were required to wear a yellow star. Jews were required to turn in their bicycle. Jews were forbidden to use streetcars. Jews were forbidden to ride in cars, even their own. Jews were required to do their shopping between 3 and 5 p.m. Jews were required to frequent only Jews-owned barbershop and beauty parlor. Jews were forbidden to be out on the street between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Jews were not allowed to visit Christians in their home. Jews were required to attend Jewish school, etc. You couldn't do this and you couldn't do that, but life went on. Grandmother died in January 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. The birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for others, and Grandma Kendall was lot along with the rest. Annie was a real smart kid, which is evident from the episode she described that happened in her school.
हम अगली डायरी में जानेंगे एन फ्रैंक की समझदारी के बारे में, और अभी हमने जाना कि एन फ्रैंक कहाँ और किसके साथ रहती थी और क्या क्या दुर्व्यवहार ज्यूज के साथ किया जाता था।
Sunday, June 21st, 1942. Dearest Kitty, I get along pretty with all my teachers. There are 9 of them, 7 men and 2 women. Mr. Keesing, the old fogey who teaches math, was mad at me for the longest time because I talk so much. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. A chatterbox? What can you write about that? I didn't worry about that. Later, I decided. I jotted down the assignment in my notebook, tucked it in my bag, and tried to keep quiet. That evening, after I did finish my rest of homework, the note about the essay caught my eyes. I've been thinking about the subject while chewing the tip of my fountain pen, and when could ramble on an lived being space with the words, but the trick was to come up with the convincing argument to provide the necessity of talking. I thought, and suddenly I had an idea. I wrote the 3 pages Mr. Keesing had assigned me and was satisfied. I argued that talking is a female trait and that I would do my best to keep it under control, but that I would never be able to break myself of the habit since my mother talked as much as I did, if not more, and then there is not much you can do about inherited trait. Mr. Casing had a good laugh at my argument, but when I possessed to talk my way through the next class, he assigned me a second essay. This time, it was supposed to be an incorrigible chatterbox. I headed it in, and Mr. Casing had nothing to complain about for 2 whole classes. However, during the third class, he did finally had enough, and Frank, as punished for talking in class, writing an essay entitled Quack Quack Quack, said Miss Chatterbox. The class roared. I had to laugh too. Thought I'd do nearly exhausted my ingenuity on the topic of chatterbox. It was time to come up with something else, something original. My friend Sani, who's good at poetry, offered to help me writing the essay from beginning to end in verse. I jumped for joy. Casing tried to play a joke on me with the ridiculous subject, but I did make sure the joke was on him. I finished my poem, and it was beautiful. It was about a mother duck and a father swan with 3 baby ducklings who were beaten to death by the father because they quacked too much. Quickly casing to the joke and the right way, he read the poem to the class, adding his own comments, and to several other classes as well. Since then, I have been allowed to talk and haven't been assigned any extra homework. Did you see how intelligently Anne Frank convinced her teacher for her talking habit and expect further punishment?
एन को बहुत ज़्यादा बात करने की आदत थी और अभी हमने देखा कि कैसे उसने मिस्टर केसिंग को अपने आर्ग्यूमेंट से कन्विंस किया और आखिर में उसे बात करने की परमिशन भी मिल गई थी। Isn't it amazing? क्या कभी आपके साथ ऐसा हुआ है? हाँ, कभी हुआ है क्या? Anne talks about why and how their family decided to go into hiding after receiving a call-up notice from SS. What it meant was that they had to shift to concentration camps and might eventually have to face harsh experiences and death. They instead decide to go into hiding.
Wednesday, July 8, 1942. Dearest Kitty, Father has received a call-up notice from the SS. She whispered, Mother has gone to see Miss Van Dam. Miss Van Dam is the father, business partner, and a good friend. I was stunned. A call-up, everyone knows what that means. Version of concentration camps and lonely cell raced through my head. How could we let Father go to such a fate? Of course, he is not going, declared Margot as we wait for Mother in the living room. Mother, gone to Miss Van Dam to ask whether we can move to our hiding place tomorrow. The Van Dam are going with us. There will be 7 of us all together. Silently, we couldn't speak. The thought of Father visiting someone in the Jewish hospital and completely unaware of what was happening. The long wait for Mother, the heat, the suspense, all the reduced used to silence. Hiding. Where would we hiding? In the city? In the country? In a house? In a shape? When? Where? How? These were the questions I wasn't asked, but they still kept running in my mind. Margot and I started packing our most important belonging into our school bags. The first thing I stuck in was the diary, and then crewels, handkerchiefs, school books, and a comb and some old letter. Preoccupied by thought of going into hiding, I stuck the craziest thing in the bag, but I'm not sorry. Memories means more to me than dresses. Fathers finally came home around 5 o'clock and we called Mr. Kleiman to ask if he could come by that evening. Mr. Vandam left and went to get map. Meet arrived and promised to return later that night talking about her a bag full of shoes, dress, jacket, underwear and stocking. After that, it was quiet in our apartment. None of us felt like eating. It was still hot and everything was very strange. We had rented our big upstairs room to Mr. Goldsmith. The four of us were wrapped in so many layers of cloth and looked as if we were going off to spend the night in a refrigerator. And all that just go we could that more clothes use up. No juice is our situation would dare leave the house with a suitcase full of cloth. I was wearing 2 undershirts, 3 pants, underpants, a dress, and over that a skirt, a jacket, a raincoat, 2 pair of stocking, heavy shoes, a cap, a scarf, and lot more. I was suffocating even before we left the house, but no one bothered to ask me how I felt. Margot stuffed her school bag with our school books, went to get the bicycle with me leading the way, rode off into the great unknown. At any rate, that's how I thought of it, since I still didn't know where our hiding place was. At 7:30, we too closed the door behind us. Morje, my cat, was the only living creature I said goodbye to. She has also described how the life in concentration camps.
कंसंट्रेशन कैंप के बारे में जानने से पहले ये देखते हैं कि एन फ्रैंक के घर पर क्या हो रहा था। कॉलप के नोटिस से बचने के लिए एन फ्रैंक की मम्मी ने वैन डैन, जो कि उसके पापा के दोस्त हैं, उनकी मदद से डिसाइड किया कि हम सभी हाइडिंग में जाएंगे। फिर सभी लोगों ने पैकिंग करनी शुरू कर दी। एन फ्रैंक अपने कपड़ों से ज़्यादा अपनी बुक्स, पिक्चर्स और पुराने लेटर्स को संभाल कर पैक कर रही थी। इसी दौरान उसके मन में हाइडिंग को लेकर कई तरीकों के सवाल चल रहे थे। वो एक उलझन में थी और उलझन और सवाल कुछ ऐसे थे कि वो किसी से पूछ भी नहीं सकती थी। जाते समय एन ने सिर्फ अपनी बिल्ली मूरी को गुड बाय बोला और चली गई। एन फ्रैंक ने काफ़ी डिटेल में बताया है कि कंसंट्रेशन कैंप में किस तरीके की ज़िंदगी थी, क्या क्या
October 9, 1942. Dearest Kitty, today I have nothing but dismay and depressing news to report. Our many Jewish friends and acquaintances are being taken away in droves. The Gestapo is treating them very roughly and transporting them in castle cars to Western booths, the big camps in Drenthe to which they are sending all the Jews. Meep told us about someone who did manage to escape from there. It must be trial in Westerbork. The people get almost nothing to eat, much less to drink, as water is available only 1 hour a day, and there is only one toilet and sink for several thousand people. Men and women sleep in the same room, and woman and child often have their head shaved. Escape the almost impossible. Many people look Jewish and they are braided by their shown head. If it's bad that in Holland, what must it be like in those fairways and uncivilized places where the Germans are sending them? We assume that most of them are being murdered. The English radio says they are being grasped. Perhaps that is the quickest way to die. I feel terrible. She gives us a closer look of their lives in hiding and how an ordinary day look like.
नाजी जर्मनी की ऑफिशियल सीक्रेट पुलिस को गेस्टापो कहते हैं, जो कि ज्यूज को वेस्टरबर्ग के कैंप में ले जा रहे थे। ये कैंप उन ज्यूज के लिए बना था जो इलीगली नीदरलैंड में घुस गए थे और इस कैंप को एसएस ऑपरेट करते थे। इस कैंप की एक प्रिजनर एन फ्रैंक भी थी, जिनकी डायरी एंट्रीज हम सब पढ़ रहे हैं और जान रहे हैं उनके लाइफ एक्सपीरियंसेस के बारे में। चलिए अब हम सब चीनू की आवाज में एन फ्रैंक की रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी के बारे में थोड़ा और डिटेल में जानते हैं।
Wednesday, August 4, 1943. Dearest Kitty, to give you a closer look into our lives, from time to time I will describe part of an ordinary days. I will start with the evening and night. 9 in the evening, bedtime. Always being in the annex with an enormous hustle and bustle. Chairs are shifted, beds pulled out, blanket unfolded. Nothing stays where it is during the daytime. I sleep in a small divan, which is only 5 feet long, so we have to add a few chairs to make it longer. Comforter, sheets, pillow, blankets, everything has to be removed from Dashal's bed, where it's kept during the day. In the next room, there is terrible creaking. That's Margot's folding bed being set up. More blankets and pillow, anything to make the wooden stalls a bit more comfortable. Upstairs, it sounds like thunder, but it's only Mr. Van Damme's bed being shoved against the window so that Her Majesty, arrayed in her pink bed jacket, can sniff the night air through her delicate little nostrils. 9 o'clock, after Peter's finished, it's my turn for the bathroom. I wash myself from head to toe, and more often than not, I find a tiny flea floating in the sink. I brush my teeth, curl my hair, manicure my nail, and dab peroxide on my upper lip to bleach the black hair. All this in less than half an hour. 9:30. I throw my bathrobe with soap in one hand and hairpin, panties, curlers, and a wet of cotton in the another. I hurry out of the bathroom. The next in line irreversibly call me back to remove the graceful curved but unsilently hair that I have left in the sink. 10 o'clock, time to put up the blackout screen and say good night.
एन फ्रैंक का रात का समय एनैक्स में शुरू होता था। एनैक्स उस पार्ट को बोलते हैं जो मेन बिल्डिंग से जुड़ा हुआ होता है और रहने के लिए एडिशनल स्पेस प्रोवाइड करता है। बहुत ज़्यादा हलचल के साथ सोने की तैयारी शुरू होती थी क्योंकि उन्हें सारा सामान अपनी जगह से उठाना होता था, जैसे कि पिलोज, बेडशीट्स, चेयर्स, फोल्डिंग बेड एंड मेनी मोर थिंग्स। एन फ्रैंक सोने से पहले अपने आप को पूरी तरह क्लीन करती थी और अगर वो कुछ भी अननेसेसरी सामान बाथरूम में छोड़ देती थी तो अगला व्यक्ति उसे बुलाकर साफ करवाता था। कुछ ही टाइम में 10 बज जाते थे और ब्लैकआउट स्क्रीन के साथ सबका सोने का समय हो जाता था। अब हम एन फ्रैंक और उसकी मदर के रिलेशनशिप के बारे में जानेंगे। उनके रिलेशनशिप में बहुत ही तरह की दिक्कतें थी। बहुत बार एन अपनी मदर को नहीं समझ पाती थी, बहुत बार उसकी मदर एन को नहीं समझ पाती थी। संडे, January 2, 1944. Dearest Kitty, this morning when I had nothing to do, I leafed through the pages of my diary and came across so many letters dealing with the subject of mother in such strong terms that I was shocked. I said to myself, Anne, is that really you talking about hate? Oh, Anne, how could you? I continued to sit with the open book in my hand and wonder why I was filled with so much anger and hate that I had to confide it all to you. I tried to understand the Anne of last year and make apologies for her. Because as long as I leave you with these accusations and don't attempt to explain what prompted them, my conscience won't be clear. I was suffering then from moods that kept my head underwater and allowed me to see things only from my own perspective without calmly considering what the others, those whom I, with my mercurial temperament, had hurt or offended, had said and then acting as they would have done. I hid inside myself, thought of no one but myself, and calmly wrote down all my joy, sarcasm and sorrow in my diary. Because this diary has become a kind of memory book. It means a great deal to me, but I could easily write over and done with. On many of its pages, I was furious at mother. It's true, she didn't understand me, but I didn't understand her either because she loved me. She was tender and affectionate, but because of the difficult situations I put her in and the sad circumstances in which she found herself, she was nervous and irritable. So I can understand why she was often short with me. I was offended, took it far too much to heart, and was insolent and beastly to her, which in turn made her unhappy. We were caught in a vicious circle of unpleasantness and sorrow. Not a very happy period for either of us, but at least it's coming to an end.
I didn't want to see what was going on. I felt very sorry for myself, but that is understandable too. This violent outburst on paper are simply expressions of anger that in normal life I could have worked off by locking myself in my room and stamping my foot a few times or calling mother's name behind her back. The period of tearfully passing judgment on mother is over. I have grown wishes and mother nerves are a bit steadier. Most of the time, I manage to hold my tongue when I am annoyed, and she does too. So, on the surface, we seem to be getting along better. But there is one thing I can't do, and that is to love mother with the devotion of a child. I smooth my consequence with the thought that is better for unkind word to be down on paper, that for mother to have to carry them around in her heart.
Students, Anne Frank shared a tough relationship with her mother. Anne अपनी पुरानी डायरी एंट्रीज को पढ़कर काफ़ी हैरान थी. उसने अपने दुर्व्यवहार को लेकर गिल्टी भी महसूस किया और सबसे अच्छी बात ये थी कि टाइम के साथ साथ एन जैसे समझदार होती गई वैसे उनका रिलेशन भी थोड़ा इम्प्रूव किया, पर पूरी तरह कभी भी हील नहीं हो पाया. लेकिन बेस्ट पार्ट ये था कि अब एन ने बैड वर्ड्स या फिर कुछ भी ऐसा कहना बंद कर दिया था अपनी मम्मी को जो उनको बहुत हर्ट कर दिया, जो वो दिल में लेकर बैठ जाएं और परेशान होती रहें जिसको सोच कर. Hey Chinu, here we have all the beautiful illustrations produced by you. Children, do you know she has put enormous effort into drawing, finding pictures over Google that can suit our storytelling, and then doing the voiceovers. To come near to perfection, she has done repeated voiceovers, repeating a voiceover again and again 5 times, and then finalizing it. Yes, this one is the perfect. We'll now keep it as final one. I seriously appreciate your efforts, Chinu. May God bless you. Keep working hard, keep working smartly, and work until it is up to your satisfaction. Thank you, Chinu, for putting such beautiful efforts into this chapter and understanding this chapter and Anne Frank's life so beautifully. Thank you.
There is more too in Anne's story, but we will continue in the next segment of this chapter. Stay tuned. See you all soon. Bye from both of us.